When an Israeli peace icon breaks down and calls his own country's actions a genocide, the world must stop and listen. David Grossman, Israel's most respected author, a man of conscience, of literature, of loss, just did the unthinkable. He called Israel's war in Gaza a genocide, not as an activist, not as an outsider, but as a broken-hearted citizen watching his homeland fall into moral collapse. It happened on August 1st, 2025. David Grossman, winner of the Israel Prize, a father who lost his son to war, and one of the last moral giants in Israeli society, told Italy's La Repubblica, "I can no longer stay silent. What I've seen, what I've heard, what I've read, this is genocide." His words didn't come lightly. For decades, he resisted using that word, but after nearly 60,000 Palestinians killed, with thousands buried under rubble, and entire neighborhoods turned into ash, even Grossman cracked. He called it an avalanche, a word that once released grows larger and deadlier with every hour of denial. Grossman points directly to the occupation. He says, "Israel's curse began in 1967. We became powerful and lost our soul. What began as a military victory mutated into a policy of domination. The West Bank was colonized, Gaza was strangled, and with every new war, Israel fell deeper into what Grossman calls the temptation of absolute power. This isn't just about Hamas rockets. It's about a 58-year-long addiction to control, and the price now paid in Palestinian blood. Let's not speak in vague terms. Let's talk about famine. Let's talk about children dying of dehydration before Israeli checkpoints allow aid trucks in. Let's talk about UN reports confirming that 1,373 people have died waiting in food lines since May. Let's talk about babies buried beneath bombed incubators and mothers bleeding out on floors where hospitals once stood. Let's talk about orphans wandering among corpses, looking for someone still breathing. This isn't war. This is extermination, and it's happening in full view of the so-called civilized world. So who is responsible? Let's name names. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, who dismissed every ceasefire, bombed every hospital, and dared the world to stop him. The IDF, which claims self-defense, while using 2,000-pound bombs in residential blocks. The generals and ministers who openly called for razing Gaza to the ground, while soldiers danced over the ruins. Grossman, an Israeli himself, doesn't let them off the hook. He says the word genocide linked to Israel should have been unthinkable, and yet here we are. Because Netanyahu and his government have turned Israel into a pariah. Where are the so-called champions of democracy? The United States sends more weapons. Germany stays silent. And the UK is still considering options. Ask yourself, what kind of world lets this happen in plain sight? Would you stay silent if this were your child buried under rubble? Is democracy selective or dead? Even as Slovenia bans arms sales, and France and Canada move to recognize Palestine, the moral giants of the West look the other way. But silence is not neutrality. Silence is complicity. David Grossman didn't scream. He didn't shout. He whispered through tears and shame. The fact that the word genocide is being associated with Israel tells us something very bad is happening to us. Let that sink in. This isn't just a Palestinian tragedy. It's an Israeli collapse, a spiritual implosion. A nation that once swore never again now stands accused by its own sons of doing the very unthinkable. So now the question isn't about Israel, it's about you, United States. Will you stand with truth or scroll past the screams? Will you pretend neutrality or call out genocide for what it is? Will you let history repeat or help it remember? Because David Grossman has done his part. He broke the silence. Now, it's your turn. Comment, share, raise hell. Because if literature can no longer hide from the truth, what excuse do we have left?